So I was scrolling through a list of various chess cheating scandals, trying to choose one to do my next video on, and then it hit me. Why not just do all of them? This turned out to be the worst idea I've ever had. And so here it is, every chess cheating scandal explained, in a classic iceberg format divided into tiers according to how well known the scandal is. Let's see how far you get until you've never heard of these stories. Timestamps are in the description. Let's go. Magnus versus Hans. Probably the most well-known cheating scandal we have today started in September 2022 in the Singfield Cup. In round 3, world number 1 Magnus Carlsen played against world number 49 and upcoming American talent Hans Niemann. The thing about Hans is, it's an open secret in Grandmaster circles that he's been caught cheating online before on the Chesscom platform, and some people suspect that he might still be cheating even over the board. In a surprising turn of events, Magnus loses their game badly. He would later say about this game, "I had the impression that he wasn't tense or even fully concentrating while outplaying me as black." This made Magnus suspect that Hans was cheating, and he withdrew from the event after this game. Now at this point, a lot of things happen that are difficult to summarize in under a minute, but we're gonna try. Suspicions about Hans cheating are everywhere, although there isn't any evidence yet. Magnus refuses to play Hans in the next events they appeared in. Chess.com releases a report claiming that Hans had cheated in many more games than he admitted to. Elon Musk retweets a joke about Hans cheating with anal beads, which goes viral, leading to mainstream media attention. In October, Hans sues Magnus and Chess.com for $100 million each in damages for defamation, leading to even more media frenzy. Now things quietened down a bit, and eventually the lawsuit is settled out of court. So legally, the beef is over, but some bad blood still remains. Although Magnus now plays against Hans in tournaments, he maintains that Hans is not his favorite opponent. There's an upcoming Netflix documentary about the scandal, so this one might not be over just yet. Kramnik versus onliners. Former world champion Vladimir Kramnik retired from professional chess in January 2019 to focus on chess education. But what we didn't know was that he was about to embark on a one-man campaign against online chess cheating. While many agree that the problem of online cheating is a serious threat to the game, Kramnik's approach has run a lot of criticism. He relies on statistics and metrics that are not designed for cheat detection and refuses to admit that he is wrong, even when actual experts in statistics correct him. He publicly names players who have what he thinks are suspicious results online. He insists he's not accusing them, but he insinuates it at every turn. The list of players he's accused is too long to list, but notably includes grandmasters Hikaru Nakamura, Jose Martinez, and Daniel Naroditsky, who went as far as playing one online event with as many as 4 cameras on him and his surroundings to prove his innocence to Kramnik. Even that didn't work.
I mean, what more do you want from me?
Although there are still many who think he's in the right, majority of the public seem to be of the opinion that he's taking his efforts too far. Now as a side quest, whenever you hear a reference to a toilet, bathroom, or restroom, take a sip of whatever you have, water, juice. Igors Rausis. A Ukrainian-born grandmaster who later represented Latvia, Igors Rausis had a pretty normal career playing and later coaching chess, that is, until 2013. He was 51 years old at this point and would usually be expected to have his level start to drop until he eventually retired, but strangely, the complete opposite was happening. Igors was gaining rating consistently. He gained almost 200 points in a 6-year period, climbing to world number 40 in his 50s. That was unheard of. And rumors were flying around about possible cheating, but he had never been caught. That is, until July 2019, when he was playing a tournament in Strasbourg, France. Tournament organizers noticed that he was using the toilet more often than usual, so they contacted FIDE, the governing body of chess, and they came up with a plan to try and catch him in the act. The next time he went to the restroom, he was followed there, and this infamous image was captured of Igors sitting on the toilet, cheating with his phone.
Caught red-handed, eh, lad?
Media sources picked the story up. It became a huge scandal, headlined by this picture. FIDE banned him for 6 years and revoked his grandmaster title. Kirill Shevchenko. Ukrainian-born grandmaster Kirill Shevchenko was playing in the Spanish team championships in October 2024 when he became the subject of the most recent cheating scandal we've had. His round 2 opponent noticed that he was almost never at the board and was using the toilet too many times. When confronted, Kirill said he just had a stomach bug, but the frequent toilet visits continued, and so the organizers followed him there one time and searched the cubicle he went into. There they found a new phone with a handwritten note saying, "Don't touch." They would later learn from the cleaner that another phone had been found in that very cubicle the previous day that had been turned into the reception, and so presumably the note was for the cleaner to instruct them not to touch this new phone. Anyway, that cubicle was locked, but Kirill was seen coming back multiple times to the restroom, but he would always leave when he realized that the cubicle was still locked. Now, the handwriting on the notes matched that of Kirill Shevchenko. The phone's time zone matched that of Romania, which is where Kirill lives. When confronted, he initially denied everything, but days later he admitted that he did indeed hide both phones in the toilet to cheat. So his guilt has been established, but the case is still ongoing. FIDE is yet to decide exactly what his punishment will be. Toiletgate. It's September 2006 in Elista, Russia, and a remarkable World Championship match is underway. After over a decade of having two different people claiming to be world champion, FIDE had finally managed to negotiate a solution, with the two competing champions, Vasilin Topalov and Vladimir Kramnik, agreeing to play a unification match to decide the one undisputed world chess champion. Now, as the match kicked off, Kramnik started very well, winning 2 of the first 4 games, and was already looking a bit desperate for Topalov. Now, people believe this was the reason for Topalov's subsequent actions to try and get under Kramnik's skin, because the very next day, Topalov's team released a bombshell press statement. It was basically an analysis of the number of times Kramnik went to the toilet. Yes, really. They concluded that Kramnik used the toilet too many times and suggested that he might be cheating in there. So they demanded that the players' private restrooms be closed, that they use a common restroom, and they be accompanied by someone whenever they went there. Kramnik was very angry with this accusation, but even more so that FIDE kind of gave in to Topalov's demands that the players' private restrooms were indeed closed and they were asked to share a common toilet. Kramnik refused and decided to forfeit the next game in protest. He didn't show up to the board and threatened to withdraw from the match outright if the original restroom arrangement wasn't restored. It took many more negotiations and the intervention of the FIDE president himself, but eventually they came to an agreement and continued the match. Meanwhile, Topalov equalized the match score on the board and sent the match to tie breaks. It all came down to the very last game, which was won by Kramnik. One of the most eventful matches we've ever had. This kind of ridiculous fixation on restrooms is what earned this scandal the name Toiletgate. Pipi in your pampers. It's September 2010, and Chess.com's Pro Chess League is in its final stages. 2 teams have qualified to the final after months of competition, the Armenia Chess Eagles and the St. Louis Archbishops. The American team is higher rated and favourite to win, but the Armenia Chess Eagles pulls off an upset victory, with great performances from all 4 players, but especially from Tigran Petrosian, who beat world number 2 Fabiano Caruana and world number 8 Wesley So. In the comment section of the article on Chess.com declaring Armenia the winners, Wesley So, one of the players on the defeated team, made some snarky comments suggesting that Petrosian was cheating during their match. Petrosian's angry response to this comment was the perfect blend of humorous and ridiculous.
Are you f***ing kidding? What the hell are you talking about, man? You are the biggest loser I ever seen in my life. You was doing Pipi in your pampers when I was beating players much more stronger than you. You are like a girl crying after I beat you. God bless with true. True will never die. Liars will kicked off.
What the heck was that?
It became a meme that was repeated everywhere on chess forums. Wesley responded by pointing out that Petrosian had been looking down at the same spot many times during the match. Chess.com reviewed the evidence and decided that Petrosian had indeed been cheating in games during the semi-finals and the final. The Armenia Eagles were disqualified, St. Louis were declared the champions, Petrosian was issued a lifetime ban from playing on the website, and the Pipi Pampers meme lives on to this day. Stanley Omondi. It's April 2023 at the Kenyan Open. It's a well-funded tournament with a $42,000 prize fund. Now, in the women's section, a mysterious figure signs up to play. She says no words and just writes her name down on a piece of paper to register, Millicent Awo. She draws attention to herself during the tournament by beating established strong players, including a former national champion. She also does not interact with anyone, was described as having masculine shoes and not walking like a woman. Don't ask me what that means. The organizers finally confronted her and asked to see some identification. He then admitted to be a male university student called Stanley Omondi. He pretended to be a woman to play in the weaker female section to try and get a slice of the prize fund. He was of course kicked out of the tournament and was later banned from Kenyan chess for 3 years. Borislav Ivanov. It's December 2012 at the Zandar Open in Croatia, and in a field of many grandmasters, an untitled player sticks out in the final standings. In 4th place is 25-year-old Bulgarian Borislav Ivanov, who defeated 3 grandmasters on his way there. A shocking first of many such performances that were going to throw the chess world into quite a bit of confusion over the following year. Now, it was suspicious from the start. Even in that very first tournament, the organizers conducted a strip search. He took off his shirt, they checked his pockets, they even checked his pen and found nothing. The media picked up the story and Borislav did an interview saying that he was being unfairly accused because the grandmasters just couldn't handle losing. What followed was a series of bizarre performances where he would show up to one tournament and play like a super grandmaster, and then show up to the next and play like me, which is not very good. It was clear that something suspicious was going on, but no one could prove how he was cheating or catch him in the act. Meanwhile, he gained a bunch of rating, he got the FIDE Master title, and he enjoyed a bit of fame in his country, even doing TV interviews and talk shows. But grandmasters in his country had had enough. 40 titled players signed a letter saying they would not play against him, and so tournament organizers refused to let him play in their events. The Bulgarian Chess Federation thus intervened, and they invited Borislav to a special anti-cheating test, including a polygraph, to give him the opportunity to clear his name, which Ivanov initially agreed to. But the night before the test, he sent them a letter saying he couldn't be there because he had to play in some tournament. The federation thus banned him for 4 months, but that was not the end. As soon as his ban was up, Borislav showed up to some open in Bulgaria, and all eyes were on him. He was searched after his 4th round game, they found nothing. Before his 7th round game, he was searched once again. This time, his opponent, who had noticed during his games that he often seemed to be fidgeting with his feet, asked him to remove his shoes and socks. Then Borislav, who up to this point had submitted to any searches, said no.
I'm not doing that.
He would not take off his shoes because his socks smelled bad. Yeah, no one bought that. He had the option to either take off his shoes or forfeit the game, and he chose to forfeit the game. After this tournament, he announced that he was retiring from chess because he was being persecuted too much, but that only lasted 2 months. In December, he showed up to a tournament in Spain and started beating grandmasters again. This time, he even allowed his shoes to be searched, and they found nothing. But as he was being frisked, security personnel felt something near his armpit, and one of his shirt buttons came undone, and so they could see that he had tape wrapped around his chest. He was asked to show what he had under his shirt, but he refused to continue the search and withdrew from the tournament. In light of this, the federation banned him permanently, and he's not been cited in the chess world since. As if the end wasn't climactic enough, in 2017 he was arrested by police and jailed for forging and selling driver's licenses. Fischer versus the Russians. The 1962 candidates tournament to select the next World Championship challenger was an 8-player quadruple round robin. Now, the dominance of the Soviet Union in chess in the mid-1900s was so complete that a good 7 out of the 8 players originated from the Soviet Union or its allies, and the odd player out was none other than Bobby Fischer himself. He was up against the full might of the Soviet chess machine, and they had the numbers. 3 of them, Petrosian, Kiris, and Geller, drew all 12 games they played amongst themselves, with those games lasting on average just 19 moves. Most people believe that they pre-arranged these draws to conserve their energies, and then went all out against Bobby and the others. It worked like a charm. They took the top 3 spots, and despite his best efforts, Bobby Fischer came in 4th. After the tournament, Fischer published an article titled "The Russians Have Fixed World Chess," complaining about the match fixing among the Soviet players. So he didn't get to play for the World Championship that year, but he did get FIDE to change the format of the candidates tournament from a round robin to knockout matches. The French Connection. 19-year-old French Grandmaster Sebastien Feller had a great year in 2010. He was the French Blitz champion, he won the Paris Championships, and he represented France in the International Olympiad that year, even winning a gold medal for his performance. He was hot. But in March the following year, the chess world was shocked when the French Chess Federation announced that they had unearthed a cheating conspiracy between Feller, a Grandmaster Arnaud Houchard, who was the captain of the French team at the Olympiad, and an international master Cyril Marzolo, who was a friend of Feller's. Basically, what happened was Cyril would analyze Feller's games at home, and he would send the best moves in code by SMS to Arnaud Houchard. Houchard would then signal those moves to Feller whilst he was playing, using a pre-arranged system where the seating positions of players in the hall represented squares on a chessboard. Now, the players denied the accusations from the federation, and without a smoking gun, this scandal actually dragged on for another year, until FIDE, who were also investigating, managed to get a signed confession from Cyril Marzolo. He admitted everything. He said he did it for the money, and so all 3 players were banned. Cyril was banned for 1 year 6 months, Arnaud Houchard for 3 years, and Feller himself for 2 years 9 months. Vishy versus the Billionaire. Former world champion Vishy Anand was involved in this bizarre case that had probably the richest person to ever cheat at chess. It's 13th June 2021 and Chess.com is hosting a fundraising event for charity. So Vishy is playing simultaneously against 5 Indian celebrities and these aren't chess players, right? So he's expected to win quite easily. But the billionaire Nikhil Kamath had other ideas. After making a blunder on move 1, he proceeded to play flawlessly and dismantle the world champion in less than 40 moves. It was obvious to everyone that he couldn't be playing by himself, but after the game, he said he was just lucky. But there was uproar online and Chess.com banned his account for fair play violations. This forced him to admit to using computer assistance and apologize. Nigalidze. In 2014, Georgian Grandmaster Igors Nigalidze was considered a budding talent. He had just become a Grandmaster a year earlier, but he had already been national champion twice and had represented Georgia at the International Olympiad. But his career basically came to an end in April 2015 at the Dubai Open. It's round 6 and he's playing Armenian Grandmaster Tigran Petrosian. Yes, the same Petrosian of Pipi in your pampers fame. Now during their game, Petrosian noticed that Nigalidze was going to the toilet suspiciously often. He followed Nigalidze there a few times and noticed he was always using the same stall even when the others were empty. He told an arbiter about his suspicions, and so the next time Nigalidze came out of the store, he was searched, they found nothing. So they searched the store and discovered hidden behind the pan and covered in toilet paper, a phone with an earpiece. Nigalidze initially denied that the phone belonged to him, but it was logged into a social media site under his account, and there was a chess engine running that was analyzing the same game Nigalidze was playing right there and then. Yeah. He was banned from playing chess for 3 years and his Grandmaster title was revoked. By the way, I have in-depth videos on a lot of these stories on the channel. You can check them out when you're done with this one. Korchnoi vs Karpov. The 1978 match between the world champion Anatoly Karpov and the challenger Viktor Korchnoi was one of the most hostile we've ever seen. The tensions mainly had to do with the fact that Korchnoi had defected from the Soviet Union just a couple of years prior to the match. So it was Karpov with the full might of the Soviet machine behind him versus Korchnoi, the defector, the traitor. It was much more than just a chess match. And so, unsurprisingly, there were a lot of accusations thrown around.
Friends don't accuse each other of things.
Korchnoi showed up to the first game wearing a pair of mirrored sunglasses. He said that Karpov had a habit of staring at his opponent, and so he wore the glasses to hide his eyes. But Karpov objected to the sunglasses, saying that Korchnoi was using them to reflect light from lamps around into his eyes to distract him. Wild stuff. The arbiters actually got a pair of sunglasses and sat down at their board to simulate playing a game to see the effects that it would have on the other person, and they decided that it wasn't a disturbance. In the middle of the second game, a waiter delivered a tray of violet-colored yogurt to Karpov. These games were very long and so you were allowed to eat during them, but Korchnoi's team protested, saying that the choice and arrangement of food items delivered could be used to convey some kind of coded message to the player. So the arbiters decided that they would have to be informed before every game exactly what food would be brought in at a specified time. And yet this was not even the most ridiculous accusation. That had to do with this man, Dr. Vladimir Zukar. You see, Karpov suspected that Korchnoi had used hypnotism against him in the past, and so as part of his team for this match, he brought with him a professor of psychology, Dr. Vladimir Zukar. For the first few games, he sat in the first row, and according to some witnesses, he would stare at Korchnoi intently, non-stop. Korchnoi and his team were convinced that this man was there to hypnotize him by distorting his brain waves. Yeah, so they hired their own psychologist to counter him and complained to the organizers bitterly. After a lot of back and forth, it was agreed that Dr. Zukar would only sit towards the back of the audience and never in front. This is just a brief overview. A lot more happened during this match that we are definitely going to do a deep dive into at some point, but Karpov won the match after a controversial final game and retained his title. Anna Rudolph's lip balm. Today, Anna Rudolf is a famous chess personality and one of the top streamers. But in December 2007, Anna was the subject of a cheating scandal of her own. A 20-year-old Anna was playing in an open tournament in France. She was a woman international master, and in a field with many grandmasters, she wasn't expected to be anywhere near the top of the standings. But she had the tournament of her life. After 8 rounds with just 1 game to go, she was in the lead and had defeated a grandmaster in a very impressive game to get there. But some of the other players thought her performance was too incredible. Specifically, 3 Latvian players accused Anna of using computer assistance, and their best theory was that she must have been getting engine moves through her lip balm that somehow had internet access using a microchip. Yeah. In the last round, she played one of her accusers, and the person had the arbiter take away her handbag, inspect her lip balm. Of course, they found nothing, and she wasn't allowed to leave the room without permission. In a tough game and under all this pressure, she lost and left the game in tears. No one really thinks, well, apart from those three guys, that she cheated. And this case is a reminder that paranoia about cheating can be just as damaging as cheating itself. The false positives of Chess.com. The premier online chess website Chess.com has necessarily also become the leader in the battle against online cheating. And they do pretty well. Their cheat detection system is considered the best in the business and has caught even some of the best players in the world when they've tried to cheat. But no system or algorithm works 100%. And they pair the algorithm with human reviewers, so they approach 100% certainty as much as possible when they do ban someone. But many people are of the opinion that they simply must get it wrong some of the time. And so the question is, how many of the grandmasters who have been banned might not have actually cheated? Now, everyone who's ever been caught cheating says they didn't do it, right? So we can't put any stock in the player's claim of innocence. But certain names that repeatedly come up in such discussions include Grandmaster Akshat Chandra, a young American talent who was banned in 2018, and more recently Grandmaster Brandon Jacobson. Now, I want to reiterate here that we simply can't know who may be false positives. But that's exactly the point of the theory, right? That maybe besides the players, no one can say for sure that they cheated, not even Chess.com. The Mechanical Turk. Our oldest story takes us all the way back to 1770, before any computers or chess engine. Hungarian inventor Wolfgang von Kempelen designed a contraption that would fascinate the world for the next century. Called the Mechanical Turk, it was advertised as a chess-playing automaton that could beat any player. It looked like a wizard-like figure in a turban, sitting behind a wooden cabinet and holding a pipe. Over the next 80 years, it toured Europe and America, baffling the masses and beating most of its opponents, even notable figures like Napoleon Bonaparte and Benjamin Franklin. It was finally retired and donated to a museum, but it met its untimely end when a fire swept through the museum in 1854. After its destruction, the son of the original inventor revealed how it worked. Through a clever system of hidden compartments and a magnetic board and chess pieces, a chess master could hide inside a wooden box, play moves on the chessboard inside, and have those moves translated to the board on top by the automaton. It was still quite a feat of engineering, but not quite the self-playing machine it was advertised as. Ironically, this was a case of the machine using humans to cheat. Stefan Docx. In 2022, 48-year-old Belgian international master Stefan Docx already had a lot of suspicion surrounding him. Local players report that over the previous decade, his levels seemed to have increased suspiciously, and he had been found to have his phone on him during games many times, but no evidence of him cheating had ever been discovered. That is, until November 2022 in a tournament in Spain. During the 8th round, the chief arbiter became suspicious of Stefan's frequent visits to the toilet and followed him there. He was reportedly there for about 15 minutes, during which time the arbiter says he saw light reflections on the floor tiles, which he interpreted as light coming from a phone. So when Stefan returned to the tournament hall, the arbiters asked to scan him with a metal detector, but he refused and rather chose to forfeit his game and withdraw from the tournament. He later denied any wrongdoing, saying that he was sick and so had to go to the bathroom a lot. I didn't see any reason that he gave for refusing the scan, but to majority of the public that seemed pretty indicative that something shady was going on. But in the absence of any physical evidence of cheating, he was only banned for a year for refusing the security check. John von Neumann. The year is 1993. This is considered the first cheating scandal to involve computer assistants. Back then, chess engines were still weaker than many grandmasters, and so they weren't really considered a threat. But all that changed at the World Open in Philadelphia. A young African-American man signed up as an unrated player under the name John von Neumann. This was likely an alias, and the name he chose is that of one of the fathers of computer science and artificial intelligence. In hindsight, that should have been their first clue. Now, John was said to have an odd manner about him. He would stare at the ceiling when he was thinking. He spent several minutes on every move, even on simple recaptures. He actually lost a couple of games on time because he simply couldn't speed up when the time went low. And get this, he played with a large pair of headphones on. Yeah, this was... cheating wasn't that big a deal back then, so this was actually allowed. He drew a grandmaster and beat other titled players, but by the 9th round, everyone was onto him. He had already won the prize for the best unrated player, so he was asked to produce an ID to get it, but he refused. He was then asked to play a test game without his headphones to prove his level. He refused that as well. Finally, he couldn't solve simple puzzles that he was given. Someone who had just held a grandmaster.
Something shady is going on here with you.
So he was denied his prize money, and people realized that engines had gotten just as strong as grandmasters. Now, if you already knew all these stories, then congratulations, you've won the game. Go brag in the comments. And watch this video for an in-depth account of the stories where grandmasters were caught cheating. Thanks for watching.